I'm in love again. I'm in love again. I'm in love again. I'm in love again. I'm in without you, without a warning, without you, without a warning. You went away without a warning. You went away on my own. You went away without a warning. Left me in a cold world on my own. Without a warning.
There's mourning in America. Today, more than 175,000 Americans have died from a deadly virus Donald Trump ignored, praising China's response instead of heeding the warnings, then blaming them to cover his own failures. With the economy in shambles, more than 30 million Americans are out of work, the worst economy in decades. This afternoon, millions of Americans will apply for unemployment. And with their savings run out, many are giving up hope. Millions worry that a loved one won't survive COVID-19. There's mourning in America. And under the leadership of Donald Trump, our country is weaker and sicker and poorer. And now, Americans are asking, if we have another 4 years like this, will there even be an America?
The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Join Milwaukee Film virtually for the Minority Health Film Festival, presented by the Froedtert and the Medical College of Wisconsin Health Network, taking place now through September 24th. Watch 50 films plus conversations about the health and well-being of families, communities, and institutions. Tickets are on sale now at mkefilm.org/MHFF. Good morning. Welcome to the program. Today is Monday, September 21st, 2020, and we are 43 days away from the presidential election. And it seems that just when you thought the stakes couldn't get any higher, just when you thought we just had voter turnout to look forward to or to worry about, just when you thought it was that, you have the inevitable. We all knew. It doesn't mean that the news was any less devastating, even when you prepare for the catastrophic. And I think that in the year 2020, at least myself, I have gotten more practice on how to prepare for the catastrophic because we lost everything. We lost people. We lost decency. We lost fact, truth, science, you name it, it was lost. Jobs, money, industries, we lost it this year. That being said, it did not make the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who was a giant, but as Rachel Maddow so eloquently put it, she was the size of a hummingbird, but her legacy will live on through the ages. And I had no idea the number of either rulings or dissents that she made that have had a profound impact on each and every one of our lives. And so if you've not taken the time to really dissect the importance of not just a Supreme Court justice, but her specifically, I would encourage you to do so, because there's something else that needs to come from this. Democrats need to have a better, deeper, and more thorough understanding of how presidents' appointments to the judiciary, to the federal judiciary, whether it be a court of appeals, another federal bench, or the U.S. Supreme Court, interprets the Constitution and interprets the laws as we see and understand the world. We see and understand the world, and maybe I'm using the broad term we, for what it can be, for actually realizing what the Constitution says on paper and having that come true for immigrants, for Black people, for brown people, for poor people. So all of the things that were afforded to white men in the founding of this country, those of us that are on the left want those same things, not more than what anybody else has, but just what the document says. Let's consider that a start. If we can just begin by providing the same equality and fairness that were afforded to land-owning white men, then we can proceed from there. Then you have the other school of thought, and this is where the conservatives have us beat. And let me lower expectations. We're not going to win this one. We're not. We're going to think of all sorts of creative things to do, and we're going to make a bunch of phone calls and post a bunch of things on social media to try and get Mitch McConnell to stop the confirmation of an ultra-conservative justice. We're not going to win that fight, though we knew we weren't going to win that fight when Donald Trump won the election in 2016. So I don't want to say I told you so, but I mean a little bit. And also, by the way, I'm not broadcasting on YouTube. I'll have to upload this video to YouTube later. YouTube disagreed with me this morning, so I disagreed with YouTube right back. So here we are. We're on Facebook like usual, like old times. And the people that were having trouble posting comments on YouTube, well, hell, on Facebook, you can post all sorts of comments. And I really would love to hear from you, because there's a lot to dissect today. I want to get to that. I also want to get to a couple of scenarios, because we're in that spot now. We're in that position, and we were all holding on and holding our breath that maybe Ruth Bader Ginsburg would survive the year, and then Joe Biden would win, and then on January 21st, then she could die or retire. This is 2020. 2020 doesn't let us pick and choose when our people die. 2020 just takes our people. The more important the person, the more likely they are to die this year. So we should have known. I've made mention of it every now and again, that Ruth Bader Ginsburg, somebody need to check on her. Right when the coronavirus hit, I'm like, is anybody looking after the Supreme Court justice that very well could hold the democracy together? And I say that because now the Republicans get to change the story. They don't talk about coronavirus anymore. They don't talk about their failures. They get to talk about why this, and I'm still going to call them the silent majority. The people that didn't like Donald Trump, they don't like his brash, offensive, disgusting tone. They don't like the fact that he's been married multiple times, that he's an adulterer, that he has palled around with pedophiles. There's a large number of people, Republicans, conservatives, some of them evangelical. They don't like any of that stuff. They make up excuses for his personal shortcomings. And why do they do that? At this point, what must the reason be for people to still make up excuses for supporting Donald Trump? And it's the courts. The Republican Party is dying, and they knew that, and they know that because of just demographic shifts. That's why they're holding the census hostage, because they know that if they report the full, true demographic data on what America is, we're much closer to a majority-minority country than ever, meaning that population has grown in certain places like Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona, where you may have to carve out additional majority, minority, Latino, Hispanic districts, congressional districts, to give that community more representation in Congress. Trump doesn't want that, because they know they're on their way out. And they have put themselves in this demographic cul-de-sac that they can't get out of. The Republican Party, really since 1994, has been catering to the real specific cultural stereotypes of white people that believe that everything in this country is theirs first. Not that other people can't come here, not that other people can't get jobs and pull themselves up by their bootstraps, but on a secondary kind of basis. And the Republican Party has been moving much more, closer to that that theme really since 1994. We can even go back further than that, but really since Newt Gingrich became Speaker of the House in 1994, they moved in these culture wars. And now they're not covert with it anymore. They're overt. And you can look at a Donald Trump rally and see how very much that looks like a Confederate reenactment. You got militias, you got all sorts of stuff you never thought you'd see again in America. And that's where the Republican Party is. And that, unfortunately, is where they're going to stay. And I say it's unfortunate because it means that meaningful bipartisan dialogue at the federal level is not going to take place. So with that being said, let me lower expectations, which I hate having to do. But if you believe that Mitch McConnell is now all of a sudden going to use the same logic that he did with Barack Obama, with Donald Trump, and say, well, it's an election year and we shouldn't be appointing anybody to the Supreme Court, he's not going to do that. And I want you to do something with your energy and your anxiety. Maybe you make phone calls for Joe Biden. Maybe you send money to a number of U.S. Senate candidates so the Democrats can get the majority so this can never happen again. I do have a glimmer of hope, though, with that being said. But as far as stopping this nomination and this potential appointment to fill the vacancy left by Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Democrats are not really going to be able to do that. There's a couple of long shots, a couple of long odds here. We are essentially betting on like a Kentucky Derby. We got a whole bunch of different horses and a whole bunch of scenarios can play out. We ultimately have an idea of who is going to win, but there's a couple of things that may happen. Maybe one of these horses, which are Republican senators, maybe one of them breaks a leg and can't finish the race and they decide that they don't want to support Mitch McConnell. But I want to put it in a context that makes sense, even though I don't know if it's going to make sense. If the Republicans know that by supporting Donald Trump through everything, from the beginning, they have become so loyal to him. An example would be somebody like Lindsey Graham, who called Donald Trump a race-baiting bigot who, spawns hate in this country. Lindsey Graham said all that stuff when Donald Trump was running in 2016. And now Lindsey Graham is probably one of the president's closest allies. You want to talk about a real about face? Lindsey Graham did an about face. He represents this complete and utter shift of the Republican Party, like this. It was complete when you get somebody who was on the other side of Donald Trump, didn't like him, didn't support him, thought that Donald Trump was bad for conservatives and conservative values and conservative policymakers, and to go from that to now being his champion, then Mitch McConnell is not going to move. And also, Mitch McConnell, very much like Vladimir Putin, they set these goals out, and they're willing to take the beating of history. They're willing to take their reputations and their images being tarnished forever. Forever. You know how hard it is to compete with a man that is willing to sacrifice his name in history books? Like, not for 10 years, forever. Mitch McConnell has made that commitment to seal this conservative legacy for as long as possible, even if that means sacrificing himself, sacrificing his party, and sacrificing what history is going to say about him in the long view. That's not a man whose minds you can change. There's no letters you can write. There's no text messages you can send that's going to get Mitch McConnell to stop this process, because he set out to do this. Vladimir Putin, 1987, communism was falling in the Soviet Union. Vladimir Putin, in 1987, set out to destroy the United States of America. And he's been waiting on it for a very long time. Vladimir Putin didn't care what happened to him. He had this goal of destroying America. Mitch McConnell has a goal of solidifying a dying conservative legacy long after we get to the point where Republicans can't win elections anymore, because people are going to remember this. They're going to remember how they felt. They're going to remember what the coronavirus did to their job, to their neighborhood, to their community, what it did to their kids and what it did to schools. They're going to remember that. And people are not going to vote for Republicans in the future like you think. With that being said, because I don't want to say Republicans are clairvoyant, it's just Americans are predictable. Very predictable. They know they're not going to win races in the future, but since they're still here and still have this last semblance of power, They're going to install every judge they possibly can, because when they can't win legislative races anymore, they've got the judiciary. Democrats have never looked at it that way. In 2004, when George W. Bush was running for re-election and John Kerry and John Edwards were the Democratic nominees for president and vice president, we told y'all that Bush was going to get 2 appointments on the U.S. Supreme Court. Democrats didn't care. Democrats wanted to, I don't know, go after wealthy people, and I don't even know what we were talking about in 2004. I suppose it was the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. Those took precedent. No one gave any kind of attention to George W. Bush was going to put a young chief justice on the U.S. Supreme Court, and then he got Samuel Alito, 2 ultra conservatives that I assure you, well, one of them, John Roberts, has realized the court has moved further to the right than him, so he might be a moderate, well, quite honestly, a liberal justice, maybe. But Alito and the other and Clarence Thomas and whoever Donald Trump appoints, and I got some information on his possible appointees, these are going to be the ones to overturn Roe versus Wade and civil rights and voting rights and property rights for individuals. Oh, it's going to be so bad. It's going to be worse than you think. But this is what the Republicans wanted to do. They're going out with a bang because they know what they have done in supporting Donald Trump has sacrificed the legislative futures of Republicans, but they still got the courts. And if you think there's anything we can say or we can do to stop them, then we don't understand the process. Democrats have always been behind the 8 ball when it comes to justices because our needs seem to be much more immediate. We want relief now. We want student loan debt forgiveness right now. We want our wages to go up right now. The courts are the long view. The courts are, we have a bill, we have a law, it's kind of working. Somebody challenges it in, I don't know, 7, 8, 10 years. Then you have your justices in place to support a law or side with a law that has been helping us for 10 years. Democrats, because the tent is growing so rapidly, and every single day more and more people are becoming Democrats, whether they want to admit that or not. An example would be whenever you have people saying, yeah, I voted for Trump, or yeah, I'm a Republican, but I'm voting for Joe Biden, that means the tent is expanding faster than Democrats know how to deal with. And so our policy needs change immediately. Republicans don't have immediate policy needs. It's guns. It's religion, and probably religion in schools and Bibles. It's no immigration, protecting the wealthy. It's simple. And when you have such simple principles, and what's interesting about their demographic of voter, because you know how they say, well, we all say it, that the Democrats take Black people for granted. So political parties by nature can't like put everybody on the pedestal. Someone's going to be taken for granted. So when Democrats say, oh, the Blacks get taken for granted, or when Black people say the Democrats are taking us for granted, the Republicans take people for granted too, except the people that are getting taken for granted by the Republican Party don't care. But that's a fundamental difference between our parties, is it not? Good morning, everybody. The poor white Republican farmers in Iowa know they're getting screwed by Trump, but they find another reason to support him. Their farm is going bankrupt. Their farm is getting foreclosed on. There's no jobs left in the town. So once the farm goes belly up, there's no work for them. They're still going to vote for Donald Trump, even though they know he is screwing them. Now, I'm not saying the Democrats need to have this blind loyalty to a party, but it's that kind of loyalty that gets you Supreme Court justices, and we ain't got that. Diane Blaylock, good morning to you. Renee Lewis, good morning. Diane says, Sherwin, we are winners, and everybody knows it too. You just got to keep on pushing, and we will, with the help of God, make it through. Well, God hasn't really shown up a lot. I hate to be offensive to those of you, but God ain't helping us with this. God is not helping. No, he's not. He's letting us screw ourselves. God probably wants people to wear a mask. House can start impeachment, says Julius Briley. Hey, Julius, good morning to you. What do you think an impeachment is going to do? Stall in the Senate. You know, Donald Trump was impeached as well. And what did he do? Got a Supreme Court pick. That's what they could. We have to stop looking at impeachment as that's how you remove somebody. Impeachment means we're going to make a congressional record of a screw up that this person made. We're going to make a congressional record and have a vote on it, which will stand the test of time, which will mean someone's going to have an asterisk next to their name because of this thing called high crimes and misdemeanors. Doesn't mean you go to jail. Doesn't mean you get kicked out of office. Doesn't mean any of that. It just means, ooh, we don't like what you did. Actually, in context, it means the Democrats don't like what a Republican did in a specified period of time. Or when Bill Clinton was impeached, that was the Republicans didn't like Bill Clinton. This is really weird, deep, long history with the Republicans and Bill Clinton. And part of it was when Bill Clinton was reelected in 1996, Bob Dole was the Republican nominee. And so there's always been this like deep-seated hatred between the Republicans and the Clintons, because the Clintons, like them or love them or hate them or whatever, they know the game. They know the game like Republicans know the game. And so what Bill Clinton did in 1996 is he took the issues the Republicans were going to use against him and made them a part of his campaign. So the Republicans couldn't say Bill Clinton is soft on crime because he locked up a lot of Black people. He gave federal dollars to build more prisons. That was something the Republicans were going to use against him. The Democrats they're soft on crime and they don't want more police on the streets, because at the time we still had the crack epidemic in America and there was a lot of the aftermath of it. So what did Bill Clinton do? Not only to give states, including Wisconsin, federal money to build prisons and encourage the prison industrial complex, he put 100,000 more cops on the street. Republicans hated that because they had nothing. He took their agenda and rolled it into his presidential campaign of 1996. And here's the thing, because the economy was doing reasonably well in the 1990s, we as Democrats let him. We let Bill Clinton do whatever he wanted to do, including what he did in the Oval Office with Monica Lewinsky and a cigar. We didn't care. He won. America was prosperous. And so that hatred goes back a very, very long time between the Clintons and the Republicans, because the reason why the Republicans are so obsessed with Hillary Clinton, even still to this day, they're more obsessed with her than I would say Barack Obama, and they're really obsessed with Barack Obama, like, oh, they hate Barack. They're obsessed with Hillary Clinton because she plays the game like them. And Republicans can't have someone with their ability to execute as a Democrat. Julius Briley says it can gum up the works. The works are already gummed up. Like, let me give you guys some optimism here. Otherwise, we're going to drift in the wrong direction. All right. Another thing I want to bring up is, for those of you that still want to vote third party, let me tell you how you would screw this country. Let's say third party candidates, Democratic Socialists, ran for the U.S. Senate. I mean, real third party candidates, maybe not even Democratic Socialists. I just pick on them because they're easy to pick on. But let's say you got a true independent, like a Green Party person, or I don't even know what the name, because they don't really matter, like a Labor Party person, because America after this gets really, really sick of the two-party system. And lo and behold, some state somewhere votes for a true independent third-party candidate that is not going to caucus with the Democrats. So right now we have two. We got Joe Lieberman, who's an independent. God, I hope I'm doing that right. Joe Lieberman, and then you've got Bernie Sanders. Joe Lieberman, an independent. Bernie Sanders, a Democratic Socialist. But again, at the end of the day, they both vote with and caucus with the Democrats. The time is going to end on that. Pretty soon, we're going to have enough people in this country that are so sick of Democrat versus Republican. I would argue that time is right now, that some state somewhere, I don't know what state, probably somewhere on the East Coast, they're going to vote for true independent U.S. Senate candidates. We may, at some point in time, find ourselves in a similar dilemma. And if we elect, this country, specific states elect a true independent candidate, which I would understand, right? Because people are sick of Democrat versus Republican, because look where it's gotten us nowhere. And we find ourselves in another situation where we have to count the Democratic U.S. senators to vote for a Supreme Court pick, and people in some states vote for true independent third-party candidates. They're not going to vote for the Democratic pick to the Supreme Court. Meaning that Even if third party candidates win, you're going to have to caucus with the Democrats. Even though you hate the Democrats and you want to run as an independent and the two-party system is broken, when it comes down to putting somebody on the court, there's no room for a third party. You're either voting with the Democrats or you're voting against them, period, point blank. Now, if we get to a point where 47 states elect independent U.S. senators, well, then that's different, because then the true independents will have enough of a total in the U.S. Senate where they can effectuate change. But just having one or just having two or just having three is going to take votes away from the Democrats, unless you have independent candidates that take votes away from the Republicans, and that ain't going to happen. It's only us. We're the party that is seen as breaking apart at the seams because the tent is expanding so fast. And just in America, we don't know how to deal with an influx of people, an influx of blacks migrating from the Jim Crow South to the North. We don't know how to deal with an influx of immigrants that are coming from south of the border. We screw it up every single time. This country is not built for flexibility. We're built for just this weird marathon that just kind of goes on and on and on. We cannot respond well to change. None of us respond well to change. You know how long it took me to even broadcast on social media? A year. We don't respond well to change. All right, let me give you some optimism here. And I hope I put the third party candidate thing to rest, because you understand, if we had an independent 3, 4, 5 of them in the U.S. Senate that said they hate the Democrats and hate the Republicans. And when I say true independent, they got elected because they hate the two-party system. They would screw up this Supreme Court vote as well. Because if they really were sticking to their principles, they couldn't vote with the Democrats. They're independent. They hate the Democrats. That's why they got elected. See how the third party screws you? They talk a lot of really good stuff, but they will not have the power to influence the kind of change they talk about on the campaign trail. They're manipulating vulnerable people by saying, elect me, I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican, I'm for the people. But at the end of the day, you got two choices. Two choices. Good morning, everybody. You guys are noticing, I'm sorry for the YouTube people that are over there like staring at their screens, waiting for me to broadcast on YouTube, but I screwed up my settings some kind of way over the weekend. Don't worry, I'll fix it tomorrow. But this video will be available on our YouTube channel after I complete it. youtube.com/theforum2com. Okay, optimism. Got a couple of things here. It doesn't mean that Donald Trump is going to nominate somebody this week. There are two possible candidates. I'll get to those in a second. Before I get to them, because one is it's going to be a woman, that's for sure. One more conservative than the other. One a Cuban American from Florida. Donald Trump needs Florida, right? So that's a possibility, but her name is escaping me, so I have to get that in a second. Here's what we got. There's a U.S. Senate race in Arizona. A woman by the name of McSally was installed to finish John McCain, the late Senator John McCain's remaining term. Okay. There is another candidate, a Democratic candidate, Mark Kelly, who you may know as Gabrielle Giffords' husband, former astronaut with NASA, is running as a Democrat. And let me be clear, Mark Kelly is going to win that U.S. Senate seat in Arizona. Here's the cool part. Here's a little bit of optimism. Let me change my background. This is not just, hold on, I totally forgot about my background. Mark Kelly can win that race. In fact, I'm not counting the votes yet because Arizona is a very unusual place. They do weird things in Arizona. But how the law is written in Arizona, Mark Kelly, the Democrat, I think her name is Martha McSally. If Mark Kelly defeats McSally, he can be installed as soon as November 30th, meaning -1 Republican. And McSally, if she gets reelected, she'll be voting for whoever Donald Trump nominates to the court. So taking her out November 3rd is extremely important because you're going to have a Democrat in Mark Kelly who is not going to support whoever Donald Trump's selection is, right? He very well can win and get installed. Now, what the Democrats need to do, and they got to pull out every single tactic and stall measure that they have to try and get past the November 3rd election. And I don't see somebody being confirmed and voted on in 43 days. I don't see that. I don't see that happening. They're going to try, but I don't see it happening. So every procedural rule, most of which we don't even know about, I know I certainly don't know, other than a filibuster and a couple of other procedural things that they can do, they got to use all of them, whatever they are, to try and stall the vote, right? Mark Kelly wins on November 3rd, gets installed November 30th. Assuming that the vote happens maybe sometime in early December, we have no idea because we don't know what the stall tactics are going to be or how they're going to work. Are they going to shut down the government? I don't know. It's going to be a whole mess, but here's what we got. We got Susan Collins, who the senator from Maine, Republican, who regrets her vote for Brett Kavanaugh. She said that she wants to be consistent to what the Republicans did to Barack Obama, because Barack Obama should have gotten his third Supreme Court pick, Merrick Garland. And so Susan Collins, as of right now, and she's also a little bit upset at the Republican establishment, which is weird because she's still a Republican. She should be a Democrat, but that's another story. Susan Collins, no, not going to vote until another president is elected. That's one. Now remember the advantage the Republicans have in the U.S. Senate, they have 53 Republicans in the Senate. Democrats have 45, but a Democratic Socialist and an independent that are Democrats anyway, Bernie Sanders and Joe Lieberman, right? So the Democrats, the whole caucus, including the independent and the Democratic Socialists, have 47. Republicans have 53. You only need 51 votes to confirm a Supreme Court justice. Republicans got 53. Democrats have 45 plus 2. Lisa Murkowski, another one. Republican from Alaska, says she is not going to vote until another president is elected. That's 2. So now we're at 51, 49 potentially. I'm just counting backwards because I'm trying to sort this thing out as I'm talking. Then you got your boy, your newly minted liberal who became liberal and has spoken out against Donald Trump, like a little bit, not enough, but a little bit. Good old Mitt Romney, who bashed the hell out of Barack Obama when he was the Republican nominee in 2012, old Mitt Romney. But Mitt Romney's come out a little bit against Trump. He's like, I don't like Trump. Margaret Bailey Stewart, good morning to you. Collins is known to say one thing and do another. Yeah, they all are. But Susan Collins doesn't want to lose her Senate seat, and this could be the one thing that could potentially save her. Because what is just as important as electing more Democrats is having Republicans in office and elected office are going to push back against Trumpism. Because the Democrats are going to need super majorities everywhere, including in the state, to be able to thoroughly cleanse and bleach this nation of the stain of Trumpism. And it's a terrible stain. It's orange and it does not come out. It doesn't come out very easily. So we're going to need a very strong bleaching agent of Democrats elected all over the place and then getting appointed to the courts, the federal bench, getting appointed to state courts and winning elections in states as well, because Trumpism is going to infect our democracy in the states for the next 25 or 30 years. But if we have justices that are installed that can look at Donald Trump ideas, proposals, laws, and policies and declare them unconstitutional, that's our saving grace. And I don't know what kind of teaching we need to do or what kind of seminars we need to have on to get Democrats and Democratic voters to be more in tune to how the courts can uphold our democracy, especially in times like this. I don't know how we do it. The Democrats cannot handle an expanding tent. Now, I'm not just going to put that on the Democrats. I want to put that on America. As your demographics are changing rapidly. And the other thing is we're going to have to get used to a shift in what the Democratic talking points are going to be. It's not going to be all this lefty liberal stuff. It's not going to be a bunch of free stuff, even though it probably should be because of the coronavirus. It's not going to be a bunch of that. At some point in time, it's going to have to include Republicans that left Donald Trump that still want to see some of their agenda items in the Democratic Party. We're going to have to sort that out later. But what I'm saying is the Democrats are going to have to be flexible enough to keep those Republicans. We don't just need them now. We're going to need them forever. We don't want a single person that voted for Donald Trump, that was a Republican, lifelong conservative, that decides they want to come vote for Joe Biden, but then next year go vote for a Republican again. No. Got to keep them. Got to keep them. Now, we can't bend over backwards for them, but and we can hang out with them for a little while. We're going to need them for a while. And oh, that's right. Thank you, Karen. And now I just got so used to saying Joe Lieberman because he was the only independent for so long. It's Maine Senator Angus King. I don't think Lieberman is. Thank you. I said Lieberman 78 times. Once an independent, they're all an independent. Okay, but thank you for that. Joe Manchin is a Republican, says Julius Briley. Tammy Reed, Susan Collins is so wishy-washy, though. She says she's angry and doesn't agree with Trump, but then votes along party lines. Her admit say one thing and do another. I think Susan Collins realized something because she was saying that same thing with the Kavanaugh vote. She said, I don't like him. Vote yes. Like if the Brett Kavanaugh confirmation hearing was a Facebook post, Susan Collins was like. Love, heart. But so when she did that, oh my God, you know what they did to her? Y'all don't know what they did. They sent coat hangers to her office. I'm not going to get into the meaning of that, but and then her opponent raised, because she has an opponent, $9 million, an ungodly sum of money. It was either $9 million or $3 million. An ungodly sum of money got raised just from random people all over the country because Susan Collins voting to confirm Brett Kavanaugh was seen as such a blow to our democracy. The whole confirmation hearing was a reality TV show. It's about him drinking beer and getting drunk. So Susan Collins probably learned a lesson. I can't imagine what that must be like as a woman who, I don't know, maybe thinks she's doing the right thing on behalf of women and stands on the shoulders of Ruth Bader Ginsburg and other very powerful women that have shaped this country, including mothers and grandmothers. And for Susan Collins to be receiving coat hangers, oh, no. That being said, maybe she's learned her lesson. But then again, Susan Collins may want to go down in history as one that sank with the Titanic because of the Republican Party, because of Trumpism and Donald Trump and how he just used this dictatorial style of fascism to tell white America, you need to get on this ship, and this is what it looks like, and this is the language we're going to use, or we're going to be disrespectful, and we're going to break the rules and break the laws, because what white skin and the history of white skin allows you to do is break the rules when it comes to everything. Everything. And Trump was like, I've done this my whole life. Trust me, we're going to break the rules. Yeah, they're going to impeach us. It's not going to stop us on our mission, because the strength of white power in this nation it's almost awe-inspiring, because now even white people, God bless you, that didn't know you had white privilege and white supremacy, look at what it is doing to us. It disregards fact, it disregards science. It doesn't care if 200,000 people die. White power and white supremacy has never cared about death, because it has been killing since the beginning. And those that think that they are separated from it, maybe, but you're also vulnerable to it. And it's not just the white skin, it's the white skin with this deep and abiding affection and connection to an antiquated America where white people get everything first. You get the Indians' land, you bring over slaves to farm the land, you buy the slaves, you sell the slaves, you rape the slave women to make slave babies. Some of them you keep, some of them you sell. You buy more land, you can use your slaves as collateral, because it's not even about the cotton and tobacco and the rice anymore. It's not about the cash crops of the South. It's about how many slaves you can acquire. And then you know what you can do? You can solidify your legacy with educational institutions. You can build land-grant colleges, which the federal government paid for. You can also influence the federal government to give free land to more and more white people, so it cannot be owned or conveyed to black and brown people, so they can never have wealth. And then you take all of these slaves and you create an endowment fund and you start a university like Harvard. Y'all, that doesn't, like, the legacy of what I just explained in the last 45 seconds doesn't go away because we think everybody should be nicer to one another. White power and white supremacy in this nation is consuming of everything. It does not care. And if you're poor and you're white, they don't care about you either, but they're still going to need your vote. So they're going to hit you with the Bible and the Second Amendment just to keep you in the tent. It's very, very simple. And as Black people, we've known this since we were like 11 years old. I'm talking to 75-year-old white people that had no idea. Sherwin, I didn't know it was like this. Word? Julius Briley, all Joe Biden does is bend over. Well, come on, man. Like, seriously, like, even when we get to this point, literally the brink of civil war, and you still have people that just want to see the rest of the country destroyed. Good morning, Ronald Gergen. Karen Ann said, not Lieberman. I already read that. I got to figure out where my new comments are. All right, I was doing math. You guys distracted me. I was doing some math. Okay. You got Mark Kelly, who's on the ballot November 3rd. Also, keep this in mind, 102,000 people as of Friday. It's more than that now. 102,000 people in 4 states have already cast their ballots early. My concern is people are not going to read the instructions on how to vote by mail properly, and a bunch of those ballots are going to get spoiled. So we have to have such a sheer raw number of votes that we can still win with a bunch of spoiled ballots, because somebody's going to screw it up. When I got my ballot in April, to vote in April, I got it in March. The instructions were like 4 pages. I wasn't trying to read all that. But again, I know how a ballot looks. But to someone who's never voted before, ever, and someone who's never voted by mail, ever, you got to follow those instructions, because if you screw your ballot up, now, we have poll workers. So you're going to vote, you fetch a little ballot, you fill it out, you vote. You put it in an envelope, you get your envelope witness, you put it in the mail. 75 years later, it arrives at the polling location, and then the ballot actually gets fed through a voting machine, and then that's how it actually gets counted. There are going to be election observers everywhere. Joe Biden has actually enlisted the services of former U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder. When you hire, Eric Holder is like the Johnny Cochran of election law. I should try and get Eric Holder on the show. I got a cell phone number, David Crowley is on tomorrow. Make sure you tune in. There's going to be election observers everywhere. Trump is going to have some. The state Republican Party is going to have some. The national, the RNC is going to have some. The DNC is going to have some. They're going to be all over the place. These are going to be the generals. And what I hope we can avoid the next American Civil War. They're going to be watching every single one of those mail-in ballots, because Donald Trump is going to try and challenge the mail-in ballots in court, because that is his best play to get reelected. If 35% of the people in this nation vote by mail, and 80% of those vote by mail ballots are for Joe Biden, we're in good shape. But Trump is going to challenge all of them. He's going to take away the advantage, because we know the Democratic voters are going to leaning more towards mail than Republican voters who are, I'll go get the Rona to vote for my man Trump. This is going to be a problem. I'm still encouraging people to vote in person if you can. But all of these election observers we're going to have, they're going to challenge these ballots. So if you wanted to vote for Joe Biden, but you screw your ballot up some kind of way, they're going to put your ballot to the side. And then there's going to be a legal fight. It's going to be Exhibit A. And then somebody else who wants to vote for Joe Biden, they're going to screw their ballot up some kind of way. That's going to be Exhibit B. And we're going to run out of letters in the alphabet. It's going to go on and on and on. And what you're going to have at the end of the day, when all of the mail-in votes are counted, keeping in mind Donald Trump is going to give an arbitrary date in which no more mail-in ballots can be counted. You know what that's going to be? When he's ahead. It's going to be called a red mirage. The number of people that are going to vote on election day, in my opinion, and with some fact that I've seen and other articles that I've read that are all credible, the Republican voters, the Trump voters, are going to have their votes counted first, because a smaller share of them are voting by mail. So on election night, Donald Trump is going to have more in-person votes. Doesn't mean he won the election. It means when you do half the count, it's going to look like Donald Trump won. He's going to stop the mail-in votes. I'm telling you this right now. Play this back if you need to on election night, because I told you this is what's going to happen. Because if I was him, that's what I would do, because there already is court precedent. This has happened before in the year 2000. George W. Bush needed to win the state of Florida. Those, I think at the time, it was either 27 or 29 electoral votes in Florida. George W. Bush could not become president without all of those electoral votes in Florida. Keep this in mind. George W. Bush's brother, Jeb, was governor of Florida. And I have said this since the year 2000. If I'm running for president and my brother Tyler is governor of a state, and I need my brother Tyler's state in which he is governor in my electoral vote column, I'm going to get them votes. I'm going to get them votes. I'm going to get them votes. 53 Republicans, 47 Democrats. Susan Collins, you guys say she's wishy-washy. Maybe she is, I don't know. But she's come out pretty early because she could have kept her powder dry. She could have stayed quiet through the weekend. But no, she was like, no, I'm not gonna do it. Lisa Murkowski from Alaska said, no, I'm not gonna do it. Not gonna vote for somebody because something 2016, we didn't let Barack Obama get a third pick. Then you got Mitt Romney, who has come out against Donald Trump. Now, Mitt Romney, I have not seen anything unless he said something this morning about him not supporting the Donald Trump nominee. But I think that if the nominee is pro-life enough, they may get Mitt Romney. But let's just say we can hang on to those three Republican defectors: Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, and Mitt Romney. Let's say we can hang on to those three. Then on November 3rd, when Mark Kelly defeats McSally in Arizona, then McSally, the Democrat, will not vote to confirm Donald Trump's nominee. Here's the problem. Mike Pence could be the tiebreaker because he is the president of the U.S. Senate. In the event it's a tie. And so that would put it at a tie. So you lose 3 Republicans, puts them at 50. The Democrats gain, I'm already missing the damn math up. 53, and then, so well, here's the thing. I'm not assuming that Mitt Romney, Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins will vote against Donald Trump. Like, they won't vote against the nominee. They won't vote to not confirm. They could gum up the works, to use somebody else's earlier comment, to make sure there is no floor vote on that nominee. But then Mike Pence enters the fray. So we'll see. Republicans also know that their balance of power in the U.S. Senate, which they really need to hang on to, because Mitch McConnell needs to be Speaker of the Senate or leader of the U.S. Senate. He has to be. And it looks like he's going to be willing to sacrifice that, even though his life would be like inconceivably screwed up if he was the minority leader and Chuck Schumer was the leader of the U.S. Senate. And so there's a whole bunch of different math that needs to play out. Let me go to this story in Arizona. This one is from NBC News. Arizona's critical Senate race has suddenly taken on extra weight because Democrat Mark Kelly could potentially be sworn in early enough to vote on a replacement for the late Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg if he wins. Kelly, a former astronaut and the husband of ex-Representative Gabby Giffords, is favored to prevail over appointed Republican Senator Martha McSally. And Arizona law indicates he could be sworn in by November 30th during the lame duck session of Congress, when Republicans may try to push through a Ginsburg replacement if they are unable to do so before the election. That could potentially narrow the Senate Republicans' current 53-47 majority as they rush to fill the vacancy on the high court before January, when a new Congress and possibly new president will be sworn in. Right now, 4 Senate Republicans would have to defect to block an appointment, but if Kelly is in office, then only 3 would need to bolt. And all eyes are currently focused on 3 possible GOP defections: Susan Collins of Maine, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, and Mitt Romney of Utah. So that's the math. Those 3 say, no, we're just going to wait. It's not about whether they vote to not confirm Donald Trump's appointment. They could say, we're not voting at all, and you can't bring this to a floor vote unless you have a majority. So those 3, plus the installation of Mark Kelly, could stop the process only until Joe Biden wins the election. So those of you that are still talking about, oh, I don't like Joe Biden. Oh, Joe Biden is not, it isn't about him anymore. You got to stop thinking it's about him. It's about what he can do to repair this court. Because, I mean, at this point, if you're going to pull that whole holier than thou thing that folks did with Hillary Clinton, then somebody should mail a coat hanger to your house. And I'm just going to be honest, because you know that's coming. I assure you it's coming. There have been Republicans that have been Republican voters that have been holding their noses since 1973 and voting for conservatives and voting for conservative presidents and voting for conservative members of Congress and the members of the U.S. Senate just so they can overturn Roe versus Wade. It has been their only issue. They've been out there voting and hating the candidates and not liking what's happening to the country, and that's what's happening when we go into all these wars. But they are single issue voters, and some of them have not moved an inch since 1973. This is their day. I haven't wanted anything since 1973. I wasn't even born in 1973, so I don't even know what that's like. I mean, I wanted a Cadillac for a long time, and then I bought one, and then I guess that was over. But I don't, that's the problem. Look, you can hate Joe Biden all you want to. By all means, please, this is America. You can make fun of him and all sorts of other things. But I still don't know what more Americans need to see. I mean, it's not decimated economies. It's not being laid off and not getting your unemployment. It's not losing health insurance because the coronavirus. Oh, you just wait until they say those of you that were affected by the coronavirus have a pre-existing condition, and then you can't get health care. You won't be able to get health care because that provision or that to take out the pre-existing conditions from the Affordable Care Act, that's in front of the court right now. Coronavirus is a pre-existing condition, I assure you. If you've gotten a coronavirus test and you ever tested positive, guess what? You're on the list. You're not going to get health insurance or you won't be able to afford it. Oh, you think I'm kidding? So I'm not really sure what more people need to see. And I'm not trying to make the argument for Joe Biden because I shouldn't have to. Because if people are, and I don't want to use the term because this is Suicide Prevention Month, and when we get Executive Director of the Office of Violence Prevention on the show, Mr. Reggie Moore, we'll talk about that. But if people are, because at this point, if you're not voting to save this democracy, if you're not voting for Joe Biden so we can get sensible, reasonable people on the federal bench, including the Supreme Court, you're suicidal. And you can't talk somebody out of suicide. You can't. At this point, we're going to have to start calling it what it is. If you're not going to vote for Joe Biden because he's not progressive enough, you are suicidal and you want to take as many people with you as possible. What up, people? Marlon Pitchford replying to Julius. He's not having that conversation. Stop trying to. Every now and again I get a troll. I had a pretty bad one on YouTube, but I'm looking at big picture here. I'm even looking out for the best interests of people that still want to screw everything up. There's still people that are going to just fold their arms and not participate. And there's nothing that I can say about that, but I know the vast majority of people, they don't want that to happen. They want to, have a future where we might be able to get back to normal, even though normal is probably going to be redefined. And the other thing is this, if you're looking to a politician or a political party to fix your life, you've made too many bad decisions already. It never should come down to that. So I'm going to use a football analogy. Shout out to the Green Bay Packers. At least there's some joy in the world. They kicked the Detroit Lions' butt yesterday. A football game should never go to overtime. Should never go to double overtime, or if they even have that. A football game should never be decided by a field goal, meaning that you should have won the game in 4 quarters by scoring touchdowns. And if it comes down to a field goal and you lose the game, don't blame the kicker, blame your offense and blame your defense for the other 4 quarters of the game in which they should have better performed. Meaning that if you were looking to a single person who flies the banner of a single political party to fix your life ain't gonna get fixed. The only thing political parties can do is provide an equal amount of opportunity for everyone in this nation. If you're sick, we can give you some health care, or we can make it reasonable and affordable. If you have a talent, if you have a skill and you want to develop it, we can make college or specialized training more affordable so you can become the best you can possibly be. You want to buy stuff, you want to rent stuff, you want to own stuff, you want to have a business, you want to speak another language, you want to do all of those things. That should be afforded to everybody equally, but we're not going to do it for you. So if your life is so screwed up that where you need a perfect president, because what's going to happen is this: those people that are malcontent, that get their perfect president, maybe it's a hybrid of AOC and Bernie Sanders and some other unicorn candidate that doesn't exist, and they get it, and then they get that person elected to the Senate and to the Congress, and they have all these perfect candidates that do everything and say everything that the people need. Those individuals who wanted those candidates to win, your lives are still going to be miserable. Now you just won't blame the political system. You'll just put your blame somewhere else. And so we have to look past those that are suicidal. And there's going to be a number of them. Now, what we hope is those that choose life, talk about real pro-lifers. I think real pro-lifers are people that are going to vote for Democrats, because the Republicans are showing you so much death. And it's just, the coronavirus numbers, they don't even matter anymore. You know that? Though they only matter to the people that are really being impacted by them. Like, business owners, families, hospital staff, frontline workers. But to everybody else, the Republicans are not pro-life. From Politico, Mitch McConnell's decision to hold a vote on the Ginsburg replacement forces him to balance his long-standing desire to cement a conservative legacy in the federal judiciary, while also retaining his power as a majority leader. That there have been so few potentially in-play lawmakers reflects the hyper-partisan nature of the political landscape in 2020, with less than 45 days left. Actually, we're at 43 days today. Until the election, both sides have largely retreated to their respective sides. In the coming days, these senators will be forced to answer several important questions. Would you vote to confirm a Supreme Court nominee before the election? If a confirmation vote is held in the lame duck period, would your decision hinge on whether the president and the Senate flip? With 53 Republicans in the Senate, McConnell can afford to lose only 3 votes. Vice President Mike Pence could break the tie at 50-50. So what they actually could do is they could say, okay, Mitt, vote against they're going to have the confirmation hearing. Donald Trump's, we might have a name by the end of today, certainly by Wednesday. Mitch McConnell say, okay, Susan Collins and Mitt Romney and Lisa Murkowski, fair enough, go ahead, vote against whoever the nominee is going to be. We'll afford you that. We won't come after you. Fair enough. If that's what you need to do to get reelected and to stay in the Senate to keep Mitch McConnell in power, they may afford that. So Mitt Romney can go down in history as someone who opposed everything that is happening right now with the fiasco and the drama of filling Ruth Bader Ginsburg's seat. And I hate to just gloss over her incredibly powerful legacy with just a political talking point. But someone is going to want to be remembered for doing the right thing. And maybe Mitch McConnell, in playing the ultimate gamesmanship politically, allows 3 Republicans to vote against whoever the nominee is so that those 3 can get reelected and potentially save Mitch McConnell's leader position in the U.S. Senate. But there's so many wild cards here. The true swing votes during Trump's impeachment trial, these 3 senators, Susan Collins of Maine, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, and Mitt Romney of Utah, were among those deciding whether the trial would feature testimony from witnesses, as Democrats had been pushing. This time around, the quote, 3 amigos, and I wouldn't really want to give them any kind of affectionate nickname, are equally as important, and they find themselves with a slew of factors to consider. In a statement on Saturday, Collins said the winner of the November 3rd presidential election should choose Ginsburg's replacement, adding that she would have no objection to the Senate Judiciary Committee beginning to review the credentials of Donald Trump's eventual nominee. Given the proximity of the presidential election, however, I do not believe that the Senate should vote on the nominee prior to the election, Collins said. Collins was a key vote in confirming Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh, blah, 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 blah. What else to say? Murkowski, too, supports abortion rights and is a true centrist with the GOP conference. She was the only Republican to oppose Kavanaugh's nomination. And on Sunday, she announced she would oppose moving forward with Trump's next nominee. Quote, "For weeks, I have stated that I would not support taking up a potential Supreme Court vacancy this close to the election," the Alaska Republican said in a statement. "Sadly, what was then a hypothetical is now our reality, but my position has not changed." And then we got Cory Gardner. What did it say about Cory Gardner? This article is from Politico, by the way, and I will post the link. Cory Gardner, the Republican, the Colorado Republican, gets his own section because he is a moderate who faces an increasingly difficult re-election fight in the blue state. The upcoming skirmish could make or break him. He has been silent since the news of Ginsburg's death and has largely avoided reporters in the Capitol in recent months. And I guess some of these Republicans that have re-elections coming up, I think there's 4 U.S. Senate seats that are currently held by Republicans that are reasonably in play. Maybe from the reasonable column to definitely in play. They have to decide that they want to go out with a sinking ship of the Republican Party and vote to confirm Donald Trump's nominee, or do they want to risk losing? Right? I think that's probably what it comes down to. All right. Because you may not want to be a Republican in the U.S. Senate if the Democrats get the majority. They're going to get crappy committee assignments. Republicans are going to get treated like stepchildren, but like not. Some stepchildren get treated like better than the biological children. They're going to be treated like, and I hate to say it's stepchildren because some stepchildren are probably insecure about how they were treated. But the Republicans it's not going to be easy to be a Republican in this country because the Democrats are going to brag incessantly. All right, guys, I overstayed my welcome here. But yeah, I guess did we get it sorted out today? If not, we can do a little more sorting out tomorrow. Tomorrow, David Crowley, Milwaukee County Executive, is going to join me via Zoom. I think he's going to join me via Zoom. Looking forward to that conversation. We're also going to talk about some resources that are available for Milwaukee County residents during the coronavirus pandemic. And also, hopefully the county executive can give us some information about how voting is going to go from the county's perspective. Thank you, guys. Remember to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/theforum2com. I usually broadcast there, but me and YouTube got into a little bipartisan disagreement this morning, and I wasn't able to broadcast live from there. In the event that happens, I'll just come back to Facebook, the old faithful Facebook. You guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you tomorrow with County Executive David Crowley.